Hello, and once again, welcome to the Community Focus Show here on Premier Radio. And once again, I'm pleased to welcome back Sarah Atherton MP for Wrexham for her monthly roundup. Hello, Sarah. It's lovely to see you again, and thank you so much for coming along today.
Thank you, David. Thank you all. Thanks for having me on board.
It seems so long ago since we last chatted, but I think it's only about 5 or 6 weeks. And looking at all of your social media posts and things that have been going on in the press, you seem to have been very, very busy. How you do it, I don't know. One of the things I see that you've done is deliver a petition to number 10 recently. What was that petition all about?
Yes, it was around about the 4th of July, David, and it was myself. I was joined with Spencer Harris, who used to be quite involved with the football club, and Thomas Wynne Lewis from the Daily Post. And as part of the Levelling Up Fund bid, which you've obviously heard me go on about probably every time we speak, is the redevelopment of the Cop Stand to increase that stadium so it has the capacity to host international sporting events. So part of this is trying to raise Wrexham's bid, the profile of that bid with the UK government. And what Spencer Harris had the idea of doing is starting a petition to have a stadium for North Wales, because now if you want to go and see international sport and you want to stay in Wales, we all have to traipse down to Cardiff and Swansea at great cost and time. So it's another piece of the jigsaw to try and make sure that we secure the Levelling Up Fund bid for the Gateway. The three of us met outside number 10 and we handed in a 16,000 signature petition. No other Levelling Up Fund bid has done anything like this, and we're really hopeful that this will give us an edge. But it just goes to show the weight of support, not only from Wrexham and North Wales, but globally, that we need to keep international sport and sporting events in Wrexham. And it just goes to show really the passion that people hold for Wrexham Association Football Club.
And in conjunction with that, this week it was announced in the press that Glyndŵr University have now handed over the title deeds basically for the racecourse ground over to them, which ties it even better together so they don't have to go through a third party like a landlord. It's theirs now, and it encompasses a whole patch, doesn't it?
Well, do you know what, David? It's really good, because what we've seen in the last few years is all the stakeholders in Wrexham, the university, the football club, the police, the council, the elected representatives, really trying to come out of COVID to work together to make it work, to grasp these opportunities that Wrexham hasn't had for decades, and really make it work for the future, not just for us, but for our children and grandchildren, because so often we see our kids go away to university and then they don't come back. Now Wrexham is at a turning point. I think we've mentioned this before, the buzz that's in Wrexham. And it's just really lovely for someone like me, who is a resident of Wrexham before I became an MP, very embedded in the community, to actually get everyone around a table and say, look, this is our time. This is Wrexham's time. And the university and the college are playing quite a large part in that. And I believe the university are looking now at consulting their various stakeholders on whether they should remain as Glyndŵr University or whether they should change their name in view of Wrexham being a platinum city.
Another thing which is always a hot topic with anybody in and around Wrexham is the current transport situation, be it roads themselves or parking or everything else. And I believe you've done a couple of surveys or are going on, the parking survey and the 20 mile an hour survey. How's they going?
Yeah. Well, the parking survey was something I did last year with some good success, and then it suddenly came to a bit of a halt. So we were receiving a lot of concerns about parking fines, really unjust, underhand parking fines, mainly Island Green. We spoke to the council about it. The council were equally concerned, but these parking firms were really not playing ball. They weren't dealing with the council. They weren't dealing with us. So I decided to raise the profile of parking issues in Parliament. So we undertook a survey, first of all, to sort of gather some information about what was going on in Wrexham. And 69% of people in Wrexham were unhappy with parking, full stop. Now, that could be private parking, it could be council parking, Of course, private parking, like Island Green, is nice and central. It's where people want to go because you jump out the car, you get into the shops, and then you come. Council car parks are slightly more out of town, but equally, they play a valuable part. So went to the council, said, look, this is what the people of Wrexham are saying. They're very unhappy with parking. And I'm really pleased that the council introduced a free after 11 as a temporary measure, but they've now, Mark Pritchard has now agreed to roll that out indefinitely. So parking in council car parks, apart from TPALB, is free after 11 and free for blue badge holders. So that's really good. That's a good result. With regard to private parking firms, things got a little bit trickier. So I raised it in Parliament, raised it at a Westminster Hall debate, and the government listened and took it on. And they wanted to introduce legislation around a code of practice for private parking firms, because quite frankly, they're quite maverick, they're quite freelance, they weren't being regulated well enough. So the government wanted to introduce a code of practice, an appeals process, and also to reduce the parking fines, because they were always extortionate, £70, but pay within 2 weeks, and we'll reduce it to 20, which basically meant people would pay the £20 because they didn't want the hassle. Well, that's not quite just and fair. And some of the examples we had were people going to buy a parking ticket, standing in the queue and getting a ticket whilst they stood in the queue. Absolutely nonsense. So the government listened to this. However, the parking companies got together and challenged them in the High Court. So we've now got a court case running against the government's proposed plans for a code of practice for private parking firms. So I'm still on it. I'm still, flying that flag to say this is unjust and the government should keep pushing this. So I'll keep doing that whilst the private firms take the government to court.
And it's important, as you know, Sarah, if we all want to use our car to pop into town to pick something up, either from the pharmacy or just some clothing or wherever it is, we don't want hassle to do that, because it will make us say, well, may as well pop along to Broughton. It's a lot easier. Don't get grief over there. It's just to encourage people to come in. One of the things which hit the headlines quite high as well recently in the month was the visit to Wrexham by Jacob Rees-Mogg and Robert Buckland. That looked like it was a very, very good, successful visit.
Well, this is, again, us all working together for Wrexham. So we'd really like Wrexham to be identified as a place of growth. And certainly international businesses, global companies are coming to me now saying, what has Wrexham got to offer? If we invest millions and millions and create these jobs, you sell Wrexham to me. So I'm a one-woman tourist board for Wrexham. That's my job, to promote Wrexham. And there's a lot of interest at the moment, and also from the UK government. So Jacob Rees-Mogg's title at the moment is Minister for Brexit Opportunities and Government Efficiencies. And we are looking to bring a Ministry of Justice hub, a civil service hub out of Whitehall to Wrexham. Got grand plans over the next year, but at the moment we're starting small with about 500 jobs. And he came here really to suss Wrexham out, to see what it's like, what the transport networks are like, housing, schools, education. Would this be a good place to become an area for growth? And I have to say, David, yet again, we all pulled the stops out and we gave a really good presentation to Jacob Rees-Mogg and Robert Buckland to try and promote Wrexham to the UK government, and Wrexham as part of the UK. And of course, we're strategically, geographically positioned really well for that. So it was a really good meeting. We had representatives from the universities, the college, business, Welsh Government, Welsh Bank, football club. It was fantastic. And we were all working hard to try and promote Wrexham. And also, the ministers wanted to know what we're going to spend the Share Prosperity Fund on. It was a good which is 22 million that's come directly from the UK government to Wrexham Council, which I think was spoken about before. It was a great opportunity for us all to promote the Levelling Up Fund bid and just again keep pushing from the rear to make sure that Wrexham's got a good chance of winning that bid. And it was really good. So we had a walk through town. We had a look at the DWP building, which is possibly a place that could be used as an interim measure for a civil service hub. And then we went to the Magic Dragon Brewery, where he spoke about the possibilities, because obviously, you know, David, I like a pint. I like a pint of real ale. I'm a big supporter of our pubs and our brewing industry. And it gave me an opportunity to pull a pint. I was a barmaid once and I haven't lost that skill. But it's really good that he could talk to a brewer and a pub owner, a brewery tap, about what opportunities there are for that sector going forward now we're out of the European Union. So it was a really good day and he was really well received in Wrexham.
Good. It is. It's something for the future that we can all think positively about, because it's growth within the area, which means more job prospects, which means more income coming into the pockets of people in Wrexham. And it can only be a good thing overall. Now, it's been over a year since we first spoke about something which was obviously close to your heart, but obviously covered the nation rather than just Wrexham, which was the protecting those who protect us, which was women in the armed forces. And the report that you were part of from that defence committee, that's now nigh on fully implemented in all of the recommendations, I believe. How is that going now?
Yes, do you know what? It's done really well. I never thought when I'd be an MP, I'd be involved in something like this. And, you know, I can go forward and be quite confident that I actually, with my tenure as being an MP, I actually achieved something really, really positive. And this is it. So it's been a year since I made recommendations to the MOD about making it a level parade ground for not just women, but for men. It's about fairness, equality and justice within our military to make sure that people from diverse backgrounds or females have the same opportunities as men. The MOD have implemented nearly all the recommendations. They've gone further in some places than I'd asked, which is really good. They've really embraced it. So I hosted an event for all those women that were brave enough, and some men that were brave enough to give evidence, because it was quite traumatic and re-traumatizing for some of them to give evidence, to say, thank you, we've done this. It's not me, we've done it, and I couldn't have done it without you being brave enough to give the evidence. So we hosted that in Parliament, really to say, thank you. It's been a year now. The MOD have released an update on how they've met or are going to meet targets. And I asked in Parliament of the Minister for Veterans and the Minister for Women and Equalities, who at the moment is Liz Truss, about an international conference, a Five Eyes conference, which the MOD have agreed to do. And we're looking at doing that. So we're going to be global forerunners in addressing diversity in the military. And the problem we've got with diversity, fairness, equality in our military is not unique to Britain. It's across the globe, and that's why it's going to be a Five Eyes conference, and there's a lot of interest in that. So, you know, the UK are really flying the flag here to try and address some of the long-standing institutional problems there are inherently in our military. But it's really good. There's a lot of good people there trying to make progress and doing it very quickly. And of course, you know, it makes me feel immensely proud when we then see the homecoming of the Queen's Dragoon Guards, because I think, you know, I'm trying to help the whole military footprint, the whole military family, of which we are both one of them. And it makes me feel very proud to do that.
Well, of course, and with the first Queen's Dragoon Guards coming back into Wrexham and that homecoming parade, that again brings in that additional cost where they're now part of the community. They're now buying things. They're part of, you know, they go shopping and things within the area. So it's another boost to the local shops, which may not have been there in the past, because they could have gone anywhere basically. But it's nice that they've come back to Wrexham.
Yeah. Well, you're absolutely right. And before I was elected, one of the biggest issues I had as a resident here, and I know everyone else had, was our town centre. I mean, if you remember, a few years ago, we were Space Town. We are so far away from that now. And we've had the blip of COVID for 2 years. So this is everything we do is about regenerating our town centre, getting football in, making people want to come to Wrexham. And there are some projects going on in town at the moment to change some of the vacant space above the street level into suitable housing. The chapter court is a private venture, but it's slowly going through the processes, and we're going to get there with that. So there are lots of plans to regenerate the town centre, but we need people to come in and want to come in as well. And part of the homecoming parade for the Welsh Cavalry is one of a string of military events, which, people love in Wrexham with our heritage, and they like to come in and bring the kids and listen to the band and look at the pageantry, as I do. So it's all about the focus on Wrexham.
And finally, keeping on that theme with military, June of next year, the Royal Welsh are going to create a new reserve company down at Hightown Barracks, which again it's good to see that there is something coming forward with that.
Yeah, it's really good, because a few years ago I thought Hightown was destined to be a housing development, and I've lobbied hard with the Secretary of State, Ben Wallace, to keep Hightown going. Strategically, it's well positioned, and I know that my predecessor, Ian Lucas, had tried as well. And this time, though, we managed to do it. We've got a new lease of life for Hightown Barracks. You'll be amazed at what's going on in there. They're trying to set up a medical reserve detachment there. But I'm really pleased that in June next year, they're formally going to announce a Royal Welsh Reserve Company there, which is going to bring it and consolidate a whole new lease of life for Hightown Barracks. And I'm immensely proud and pleased that we, as a community, have managed to do that.
Something a little bit closer now is you had a meeting between Rossett Focus Group and Natural Resource Wales. What was the purpose of that one?
Yes, so since 2020, I've been involved trying to support a great group of people that have got together called the Rossett Focus Group. Now, anyone that knows the area will know that Rossett gets flooded regularly. And there's a proposed housing development on a piece of land there, which is quite frequently, I'm no scientist, David, but I can see that land floods frequently. And there's a proposed development going there, which they proposed to raise the land up to stop the flooding, but water has to go somewhere. Now, I might be doing a disservice here to the scientists that may be listening in, but it just doesn't make common sense to me. So I've been trying to support Rossett Focus Group best I can, and managed to negotiate a meeting with Natural Resources Wales, which in itself is quite an achievement. And my role there was to chair this meeting to make sure that both sides had their voices heard and had their questions answered, no more, no less than that. And it's a really productive meeting. But since then, the Rossett Focus Group have lost their court action against Natural Resources Wales and the development of that land. So they're now going to the Court of Appeal. So I'll continue to support them on that, because last year in particular, I was involved with quite a lot of flooding issues around Wrexham. And it's not just rural areas, the Golborne, the Triangle in Boris, those areas were flooding as well. So, whilst we've got possible hosepipe bans coming over the horizon, wasn't long ago we've had major flooding problems. So I'll continue to help community groups in having their voices heard. And there are quite a few development groups now challenging developments going around Wrexham. So my role is really to advocate for them and make sure that they get their questions answered.
Yeah, there's initiatives in Wrexham Town Centre now for improving and helping people feel safe and secure. And the additional £500,000 which came in for the Safer Streets Fund, that's going to start adding more benefit that people may not visually see immediately, but they'll certainly feel it when they're in and about town, because obviously there's going to be street marshals coming in, there's going to be a pop-up police station down at Eagles Meadow. There's lots of things coming out of this fund, and it can only be a good thing for the centre of town, can't it?
Yeah, again, it's about making people feel they want to come to Wrexham, they feel safe and happy when they come to Wrexham. I go on regular foot patrols and I was going to say panda car, that's not quite the word, but police patrols around Wrexham constituency. I'm really pleased that we've got this funding from UK government via the PCC. Quite a chunk of that is earmarked for Wrexham. So we've got new, as you say, new CCTV cameras. We've got the first aid hub at the bottom of the hill there that's going to be open at weekends. There's a lot going on. And I have to say, I'm really impressed with Inspector Luke Hughes and Claire McGrady, who's pushing for this to happen. I'm in constant dialogue with them both about concerns we have and working together with the council to make it safer when people want to come and use the night economy in Wrexham. So I'm really pleased that we've got that. I'm really pleased that we're going to see more visibility of police officers around Wrexham. I think one of the hubs they're looking at is at the entrance of Central Arcade. And the concern was, what would people think if they saw police officers sat in a cafe doing the paperwork? And I said, fantastic. And there was a bit of concern that people may think they are shirking. Well, actually, they're not. It's better that they do the paperwork being visible, because what people tell me is they want to see police officers and PCSOs, rather do it there where they are approachable than in the police station where we can't see them. So, it's all about higher visibility. It's all about confidence in the police and safety, and feeling safe, and that perception of feeling safe in Wrexham. So some really good work going on around the Safer Streets campaign.
And it's good to read that North Wales Police in general are taking on another 144 police officers, and 14 of them are going to be deployed within the Wrexham area. So it's, again, for the communities, it's nice to know that there's more police going to be visible and there to help and support them. It doesn't sound a lot, 14, but given today's quick reaction, those 14 police officers can be anywhere within about a 12-mile radius at a flick of a coin, and they're there, aren't they?
Yeah. Well, it's really interesting, because whilst you've got bigger picture policing issues like county lines and modern slavery, what people tell me and what I want and my family want is to be able to see a police officer in the park, to introduce your kids to a police officer. We want to know if your mower's nicked from the shed, that someone's going to listen to you and not just allocate you an insurance number, or your bike's stolen, that someone is actually going to try and find it for you. So it's about that. For me, it's very much about that neighbourhood policing. And this is part of that. It's a sort of town centre neighbourhood policing. So I'm really pleased, and I'm really super supportive of the policing in Wrexham.
And one of the things which we've talked about for a long time, and you never let it go, it's the issues that your constituents come across all the time, is the healthcare in Wrexham and the priorities, and how you're constantly meeting with the managing director of Wrexham Hospital, etc. Does that become another sort of milestone for you to crack, if you like, in the short term? How does it work? What's the, apart from the constituents getting a better service, is it something personal to you, or is it something which you feel as a resident yourself ought to be addressed?
Well, I can tell by the way you're smiling at me, it is personal to me, because I trained as a nurse at the Miler and went back during COVID. So I'm absolutely passionate and embedded in the healthcare in Wrexham. I'm really pleased that the campus 2025, I hope I've got that right, 2025 at Glyndŵr University is going to see nurse training and paramedical training back in Wrexham. It's Welsh Government. I can't do anything directly to change this. I can just nag for Wrexham and nag for the constituents. And we have huge success on a one-to-one basis with trying to resolve constituency issues. And some of that as well is about me highlighting the concerns, embarrassing the Welsh Government into doing something about the health service. I know that the Welsh Government has allocated £1.9 billion to healthcare in Wales. 38 million of that I've now found out is coming to Betsy Cadwallader. But I'm really sad to read that last year alone, Betsy Cadwallader paid out 24 million in compensation. So really, how much more money have they got to improve services? And it's almost, what do they say? It's like stacking the deck chairs on the Titanic. I'm not seeing massive improvements yet, although next week I am going to visit the new primary care centre at the Miler. And this is something that I've been calling for. You can't get to see a GP. Quite a few practices now in Wrexham are no longer taking new patients. You can't get to see a GP. You end up 17 hours in a very uncomfortable A&E. And some people who are going to A&E because they've got no other choice should not be there. So it's clogging up that system. So they're opening a new primary care unit where GPs can directly refer. to try and take that pressure, not only off GPs, but A&E. So I'm going to visit that next week, which I'm really pleased about because that's a good success. It's like chipping away. I don't know what the answer is, but I do know I will keep chipping away to try and make improvements for Wrexham. I've had a lady yesterday came to me. She's waited 5 years for a knee operation. 5 years. So that means she's going to need the other knee doing almost immediately. We've had a chap this morning came in, had to pull 2 of his teeth out because he can't get a dentist. And I'm not seeing massive improvements, unfortunately. So I will just continue this. I'm passionate about this. And because I and my family live here and I want to go old here. And I don't want people to be moving over the border into England. I don't want people taking payday loans out to get hip ops or hernia ops. We need to be doing something. So I'm just going to keep ploughing on, head down, and fighting for the constituents on this.
It's important also, Sarah, to note that obviously, as we speak today, we're going through this heat wave and there's all these issues with lack of water, hosepipe bans potentially on the horizon. Water is the biggest commodity that we all need as a human being, but also healthcare as well. Because we're human beings, we're like a car. We will break down at some point and we will need repairing if we want to keep going. So it's essential, I think, that we do that. Something which you attended recently was the Wrexham Business Networking event. What's the idea behind this and how do local businesses become involved?
Okay, so when I was elected as MP, one thing I wanted to do, because we had a very large trading estate, it's soon to be the largest in Europe, and it's expanding rapidly. But I wanted to get businesses together to offer them support, to see what they wanted, to help them with any casework they may have, and to try and foster that business ethos in Wrexham. Because with business comes jobs. With jobs comes prosperity. With prosperity, yet again, comes footfall into our town. So, ultimately, everything goes into, Wrexham. So COVID stopped my plans. So we've now restarted our business network events. So we hold them at Moneypenny. Moneypenny is fantastic. I don't know if you've ever been in there. By Jove, if you get a chance, it is an awesome place to work and to visit. And they have their own bar there. So I hold my network events at the bar there in Moneypenny. And basically it's to have fun. It's to network. It's for me to listen to the businesses and answer any queries they have. And it's for them to bounce off each other. So we've had 2 networking events so far. We have them every 3 months, or anyone that's got a link with businesses in Wrexham. And we're not vicious on you've got to be in the constituency. We have them coming in from Ruthin, we have them coming in from North Wales, because obviously Wrexham is a massive business hub. So anyone that's got an interest in businesses or wants to have a business in Wrexham, come along, email me. We have speakers. We had the leader of the council came and spoke to businesses about planning and our buzz for Wrexham and what we're trying to do for Wrexham. And I know already the numbers, we started off with about 15. We had about 40 came last week. There's a thirst for it. There's a thirst for business support in Wrexham. They're working off each other. They're trading with each other. And it's really good and really positive. And I think the council are quite surprised as well at the thirst for businesses in Wrexham. I think they're going to restart their Christmas annual business events. So I think everything had gone pretty quiet because of COVID. I've started these network events and they've really taken off. And I'm here to help any businesses in whatever capacity I can.
I mean, from my own personal experience, I run a business which is an international business, and I don't think there's anything better than networking with another group of business people, because you not only just exchange potential contracts with each other, but you actually gain some knowledge of what is needed in the markets today, where you can go and find new information about markets. And even if it's just over a cup of coffee and somebody says, I'm having issues with, and then you can say, I had the same issues. This is what I would do to get out of it. And those informal ways of doing it are much better than trawling through reams and reams of data on the computer to find out, how do I apply? How do I stop doing this? How do I look for new business? And yeah, it's great because, without it, people assume everything's going quite well, but behind the doors, it might be panic stations.
Yeah, well, it's also something, about I need this. Does anyone have an idea how I can resolve this? Well, I do, because I can provide this. And that's what I'm seeing going on, which is actually really good because it's keeping the business within Wrexham as well.
100%. So I think we've covered most things, Sarah. Is there anything else you'd like to just to add to this one?
Yes, thanks, David. The cost of living payment, the rebate of £150 for council tax bands A to D, there's about 18,000 people in Wrexham County Borough Council. It's about 40% have not had their rebate yet. Just to let you know, I'm on it. I have not had a response from the council as to when they're going to be paid, but I'm certainly nagging for you, and hopefully we'll resolve that. I'd just like to say well done to Jacob Edwards, our gymnast who flew the flag for Wales and Wrexham in the Commonwealth Games. Well done, Jacob. We're all immensely proud of you. And hopefully we'll see you in Paris at the Olympics in 2024. And then just very quickly, 20-mile-an-hour zones proposed by Welsh Government in built-up urban areas. What a nonsense. The pilot was in Buckley. Absolute failure, increased congestion, increased pollution, increased noise. People of Buckley did not like it. Welsh Government say the people of Buckley are spreading misinformation. I can tell you the people of Wrexham don't like it. I don't like the idea of it. So I certainly won't be promoting it. Wrexham needs to grow and move, not go backwards.
After the 20-mile-an-hour limit, I think the next stage will be horse and cart. So it's good for some places in the world, but not necessarily in sort of our area. Well, Sarah, thank you so much for taking the time out again to join us. And it's always interesting to find out what you do locally as well as what you do down in Westminster, and how sometimes both can join together by taking people down to Westminster and taking a petition in, which is exactly what you did. And with the summer upon us, obviously we're all looking now forward to a well-earned break, but I believe you've had your well-earned break, so you're now back at work, fully charged, and just chomping at the bit to carry on and fly the flag for Wrexham and move forward. So hopefully we'll see you down at our new complex at Eagles Meadow at the new studios very soon. And we will not have to do these virtual interviews like this anymore. We can do them face to face, it'll be a godsend, unless, of course, you're down in Westminster, and then we'll have to revert back to these again. But Sarah, thank you so much for joining us. It's been a great pleasure.
Thank you. And I'll see you on the 20th at your launch.
Indeed you will. Thank you very much.
Thanks, everyone.